They offered the alien princess everyone feared. The human accepted instantly. Part 1: The Cursed Bride. The council chamber floated above the neutral space station like a metal bubble suspended in the black void. Inside, the air was cold and thick with tension. 17 different species sat in rows of seats that rose high above the chamber floor. Some of these beings were made of crystal and light. Others moved like liquid in special containers. A few were machines with no bodies at all, just metal and wire shaped into something that could think and speak. Captain sat alone in the human observation box. He was a tall man with hair and a face that had seen too much war and too much loss. His uniform was clean and pressed, but his eyes were tired. Next to him sat Sophie, a younger diplomat from Earth. She was nervous, her fingers picking at the edge of her notebook. The High Lord stood at the center of the chamber. His body was tall and thin, covered in purple skin that seemed to glow under the chamber lights. His voice was cold and hard like metal striking metal. "The Empire and the Coalition forces stand at the edge of destruction," the High Lord said. His words echoed through the chamber. "We have chosen a path to peace. Princess Is will be given to any willing species as a bride. This union will bind our two powers together. War will end. Peace will begin." Silence fell over the room. No one moved, no one spoke. Felt Sophie shift beside him. He knew why. Princess Is was not a normal bride. Everyone in this chamber knew her story. She was the most dangerous being in the known galaxy. The princess was not born like other. She was created in a laboratory, built to be the perfect weapon. The scientists had given her a mind that could kill with thought alone. Her telepathy was so strong that it could shatter the consciousness of other beings. She could make you see things that were not real. She could turn your own fears against you. She could break your mind into pieces while your body still lived. There were stories about her. An ambassador went into her presence as a negotiator and came out unable to speak or move or think. He just sat in a corner and stared at nothing for the rest of his life. A warrior tried to fight her with weapons and was found standing motionless, screaming silently while blood ran from his eyes and ears. A human scientist spent 3 hours with her and never spoke again, just drew dark pictures and refused to eat. The High Lord waited for responses. His red eyes moved from species to species. "The Empire refuses," said the delegate. He did not look up from his desk. "Humanity has no interest in such an arrangement," said the representative quickly. One by one, every species rejected the offer. They gave polite words and formal reasons, but the truth was simple. No one wanted to die. No one wanted their mind broken by a monster wearing a princess's name. Watched them all say no. He watched them refuse. He thought about his daughter, Emma. She had been 12 years old when the attack came. She was in school when the bombs fell. They found her body 3 days later in the rubble. Had spent 5 years since then learning to hate. He had spent 5 years believing that all of them were monsters and killers. But he had also spent 5 years thinking about something Emma said to him once. She was young then, maybe 7 years old. They were watching a news program about refugees from a war on another world. Emma asked him why people fought so much. He told her it was because people were afraid and did not understand each other. Emma said that was sad. She said that if people took time to really talk to each other, maybe they would not be so afraid anymore. Had not thought about that conversation in years. He had not wanted to think about it, but now it came back to him and it would not let go. Before he could think more about what he was doing, stood up. Sophie grabbed his arm. "What are you doing?" she whispered. Did not answer. He walked forward into the chamber itself, down the steps to the floor where the High Lord waited. Every eye in the room turned toward him. Some beings leaned forward, others pulled back. "I accept the offer," said. His voice was steady. The chamber exploded in noise. Delegates shouted. Some of them stood up. The High Lord seemed confused. He had not expected anyone to say yes. "You understand what you are accepting?" the High Lord asked. I understand that a young woman has been created as a weapon and used as a tool her entire life, said. I understand that everyone here fears her because she has power they do not understand. But I also understand something that maybe no one else in this room understands. I understand fear. I understand pain. I understand isolation. And I know that a person who has only ever known those things needs someone who can see past the monster they have been made to become and see the person underneath. Sophie's mouth was open. She could not believe what she was hearing. You will die, the delegate said. She will kill you the moment you are alone. Perhaps, said, but my people have always believed that courage means doing what is right even when you are afraid of what it will cost you. This is what is right. The High Lord smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had just won a game where the other player did not know they were playing. Very well, the High Lord said. The arrangement is complete. Captain of Earth will take Princess Is as his bride. The ceremony will take place in 3 days at the palace. The chamber fell silent. No one cheered. No one was happy. They had just watched a man volunteer to walk into the jaws of death. When the session ended, Sophie walked with back to their quarters. She did not speak until they were alone. Why did you do that? She asked. Her voice was shaking. Because everyone deserves a chance, said. She is not a person, she is a weapon. She is a person who was made into a weapon. It is not the same thing. Sophie looked at him like she did not know who he was. Then she left without saying anything else. That night lay in his bed and thought about Emma. He thought about what she would have said if she could see him now. Maybe she would have been proud. Maybe she would have thought he was crazy. In the palace, in a chamber high in the tallest tower, Princess Is watched everything through hidden sensors. She watched the council meeting. She watched Stand and volunteer his life to her. She watched his face when he spoke about understanding fear and pain. Her eyes were cold and empty. She felt nothing. She had been trained since birth not to feel. But something in the way this human moved and spoke made her curious in a way nothing else ever had. She would meet him in 3 days. She would see if he was truly different from all the others. She would find out what made him special enough to walk toward death without fear. And if he was just like all the rest, just another mind to break and discard, then at least he would provide her with some entertainment in her endless, empty life. They offered the alien princess everyone feared. The human accepted instantly. Part 2. The Dangerous Dance. The palace was nothing like anything had ever seen on Earth. It was built from materials that seemed to be part crystal and part metal, and they glowed with a pale blue light that came from deep within the stone itself. The towers were impossibly tall, rising up like fingers pointing at the sky. The walls moved sometimes, shifting and changing in ways that should not have been possible. The guards brought deeper into the palace. They did not speak to him. They did not even look at him. Their armor was black and sleek, and they moved like machines that had learned to walk. Sophie had come with him to the palace, but she was not allowed to go where was going. She had grabbed his hand before they separated and told him not to be stupid, not to try to be a hero, to remember that some people could not be saved. Wondered if she was right. The chamber where he was supposed to meet Princess Is was high in the central tower. The guards opened the doors and stepped back. They did not follow him inside. The room was large and empty except for hovering platforms that floated in the air like islands. The walls glowed with that same pale blue light, and in the center of the room, standing on one of the floating platforms, was the princess. Is was nothing like expected. She was young, maybe 20 years old in human years. Her body was lean and delicate-looking but could sense the strength underneath that beauty. Her skin was the same purple as the High Lord's, but hers seemed to shimmer with patterns of darker color that moved like liquid across her body. Her eyes were large and black, with no iris or pupil that could see. Just black, deep and empty and cold. She was wearing a long robe that seemed to be made of the same material as the palace walls. It moved and shifted as she moved. She did not smile. She did not greet him. She just stared at him with those empty black eyes. "You volunteered to die," she said. Her voice was soft but somehow very heavy. It made feel like he was drowning. "I volunteered to meet you," said. "That is the same thing. Everyone who comes to meet me is volunteering to die. Some of them just do not know it yet." Walked further into the room. He did not know where to stand, so he stood on one of the lower platforms. He was still far below her. "Why do you think that?" he asked. "Because I am a weapon. That is what I am. That is all I am. Every person I meet either tries to use me or they are afraid of me. Those are the only two choices." "I am not here to use you," said, "and I am not afraid of you." Is made a sound that might have been a laugh. It sounded like breaking glass. "Everyone is afraid of me. Fear is the only thing I can feel from other beings. Your fear, your pain, your despair. That is what I taste when I touch your mind." She did not move, but suddenly felt something pressing against his thoughts. It was like someone had put their hand inside his skull and was squeezing his brain. Pain exploded behind his eyes. He wanted to scream. He wanted to run. He wanted to do anything to make it stop. But he did not move. He did not scream. He just stood there and breathed, and he let the pain wash over him like a wave. He did not fight it. Fighting it would make it worse, he somehow knew. After what felt like hours, the pressure stopped, was trembling. Sweat ran down his face. His legs felt like they would not hold him up anymore, but he stayed standing. Is looked at him with something that might have been surprise. It was hard to tell with those empty black eyes. "You did not break," she said. "No," said, his voice was hoarse. "I did not break." "Why?" "Because I understand pain. I have lived with it for 5 years. It does not control me anymore." For the first time, something changed in his face. Her expression shifted slightly. It was only a small thing, but it was there. "Tell me," she said. So told her. He told her about Emma. He told her about the school and the bombs and finding his daughter in the rubble. He told her about the 5 years of hiding everything. He told her about Emma saying that people would not fight so much if they took time to understand each other. Is listened. She did not interrupt him. She did not attack his mind again. She just listened. When he finished, she said, "Your daughter was killed by my people." "Yes," said. "And yet you do not hate me." "I hated your people for a long time, but I am tired of hating. It has not brought Emma back. It has not made anything better. I think Emma was right. I think fear makes us do terrible things. And I think the only way to break that cycle is to see the person in front of us and treat them like they matter, no matter where they came from." Is was quiet for a long time. "I have never been treated like I mattered," she said finally. "I have only ever been a tool. My father created me to be a weapon. The military uses me to frighten other species. The council uses me as a bargaining chip. No one has ever asked what I wanted. No one has ever cared if I was in pain." Climbed up to the platform where she stood. She did not stop him. He was close to her now, close enough to see that the patterns moving across her skin were actually thoughts and feelings made visible. They were dark and chaotic and fractured, but they were also beautiful in a strange way. "What do you want?" he asked. Is did not answer immediately. She stared at him with those empty black eyes and realized that maybe they were not empty at all. Maybe they just showed nothing because she had been taught that showing anything was weakness. "I do not know," she said. "No one has ever asked me that before." "Then maybe we can figure it out together," said. For the first time in her entire life, Princess did not feel the urge to break the person in front of her. Instead, she felt something else, something smaller and quieter, something that might have been hope. The guards came for 3 hours later. He was exhausted. His mind felt torn apart from the pressure of being close to her thoughts, but he was alive, And more than that, he had seen something in her that no one else had bothered to look for. As he left the chamber, Iz watched him go. She raised her hand and looked at it, at the patterns moving across her skin. For the first time, she wondered what it would be like to be something other than a weapon. For the first time, she wondered if that was possible. Sophie was waiting for him in his quarters. She took one look at his face and started crying. She had been sure he was dead. She had been sure that she would never see him again. Told her everything that happened. He told her about the pain. He told her about the princess. He told her that Iz was not a monster. She was just a person who had never been taught how to be anything else. "You are going to get killed," Sophie said. "You know that, right?" "Maybe," said, "but I do not think so. I think she is ready to be something different. I think she is ready to change. It is going to take time. It is going to be hard, but I think it is possible." Sophie did not believe him, but she did not argue anymore. She just held his hand and waited to see if the crazy human captain was right, or if he was just another person who would die at the hands of the weapon they called a princess. They offered the alien princess everyone feared. The human accepted instantly. Part 3: Cracks in the Armor. 6 weeks passed. Every day went a meet with Iz. Every day she showed him more of who she was beneath the weapon that everyone feared. The meetings were never easy. Her mind was still sharp and dangerous, still capable of causing pain, but she was learning not to use that power as her first response. They met in the palace gardens now, a place that belonged fully to neither of them. The garden was underground, lit by bioluminescent plants that hung from the ceiling like stars. There were fountains of water that floated upward instead of falling down. There were trees that grew in spirals and flowers that bloomed in colors that did not exist on Earth. Brought her gifts, a flower from Earth that he had carried in a special container the entire journey, a recording of rainfall that he played on a small device, with poems written by humans about loss and loneliness and the strange beauty of surviving when you thought you would break. Iz would hold these things carefully, like they might disappear if she was not gentle. She would listen to the rain recording over and over. She would read the poems in the human language that she had taught herself to understand. And sometimes, when she thought was not looking, she would cry. She had never cried before. She did not have a word for what was happening when water ran from her eyes and her body shook with sounds that were almost sobs. Explained that it was grief. He explained that humans cried when they felt deep things that could not be expressed in words. "I have lost nothing," Iz said. "I have nothing to grieve for." "You have lost your entire life," said. "You lost the chance to be free. You lost the chance to make choices about who you wanted to become. That is something to grieve." Iz did not argue. She just kept reading the poems and kept crying. But in the palace, far above the gardens where they met, the High Lord was watching. He was Iz's creator and her father, though he did not think of her as a daughter. He thought of her as a project, and he was becoming concerned about the outcome. One day he summoned her. Guards came to the gardens and told her she had to come, tried to follow, but they pushed him back. Sophie, who was watching from a distance, ran to him. "What is happening?" she asked. "I do not know," said, "but it is not good." The High Lord met with Iz in his private chamber. He was tall and old, with skin that was darker purple than most. His eyes were the color of blood. "You have become weak," he said. The words were like a hammer strike. Iz stood straight. She did not defend herself. She had been trained never to defend herself against authority. "I have been learning," she said. "You have been corrupted. The human has poisoned your mind. I sent you to break him, and instead he has broken you. You are no longer the weapon I created. You are becoming something useless." He walked closer to her. His presence filled the entire room, cold and heavy and wrong. "There is only one way to fix what you have become. You will prove your loyalty to me and to the Empire. You will kill the human. You will return to what you were meant to be. And you will do this now today before the weakness spreads further." Is felt something inside her twist. It was the part of her that had been programmed to obey, to do what she was told, to be what she was made to be. That part of her was screaming at her to do what her father commanded. But there was another part of her now, a newer part, a part that had learned to feel and to think and to want things for herself. That part was screaming too, but it was screaming in a different direction. "No," she said. The High Lord's face changed. Rage filled his features. "You will do what I command. You are mine. You exist because I created you. You have no will but my will." "That is not true anymore," Is said. "I am not what you made me. I am becoming something new." The High Lord raised his hand. The gesture meant that her access to the palace systems was cut off. She was isolated now, imprisoned in the palace with no way to reach outside. He turned and walked out without saying another word. Is found in the gardens an hour later. She told him everything. She told him about the command to kill him. She told him about her father's rage. She told him that they had to run because the High Lord would not wait long. He would send soldiers to kill and recapture her. "Will your people help us?" asked. "Some of them might," Is said. "There are those in the military and the government who question my father's leadership, but it would mean civil war. It would mean the end of the empire as it exists now." Was quiet for a long moment. "I need to tell you something," he said. "I came here thinking I could save you. I came here to prove that compassion was stronger than fear. But the truth is, you have saved me. You have saved me from the hate that was eating me from the inside. My daughter died, and for 5 years I wanted to make sure that everyone responsible paid for it. I wanted to make them suffer like she suffered. But meeting you, getting to know you, that has changed me. I have killed people," Is said. "I have broken minds. I have done terrible things because my father commanded it." "I know," said, "and I am sorry that happened to you, but you are choosing to be different now. That choice, that decision to become something new, that is the most human thing I have ever seen. That is what it means to have courage." Is looked at this man who had walked into her life and changed everything. She realized that she did not want to kill him. She did not want to go back to being the thing her father had made her. She wanted to stay on this new path, no matter where it led. "When do we leave?" she asked. "Tonight," said. "Sophie has a plan. There is a ship waiting." But they both knew that leaving would change everything. It would start a war. It would tear apart the government that had held the empire together for 1,000 years, and it would make both of them fugitives hunted across the galaxy. As they stood in the garden surrounded by the beautiful alien flowers, neither of them knew if they were doing something brave or something foolish. They only knew that they could not turn back, and that whatever came next would define the rest of their lives. They offered the alien princess everyone feared. The human accepted instantly. Part 4: Escape and Revelation. The ship was smaller than expected, built for speed instead of comfort. Sophie had used off-books contacts to secure it. The crew was hand-picked, all humans who trusted in what he was trying to do. The escape happened at midnight. Guards were supposed to be at the palace exits, but a group of officers who believed in reform had created a distraction on the other side of the palace. Is and were able to run through the dark corridors and reach the docking bay. The ship was waiting. The engines were already humming. As soon as they got aboard, the vessel detached from the dock and shot away from the palace into the night sky. "We have hunter ships coming," the pilot said. His name was, he had been flying for the human fleet for 30 years. 3 of them, they will be on us in minutes. Went to the command center. On the screens he could see the ships racing toward them. They were fast and deadly, built for combat. "How long until we can jump to hyperspace?" asked. 8 minutes. The hyperdrive needs time to charge, said. "We will not make it." Is came to the command center. She looked at the screens with those empty black eyes. "Let me help," she said. Started to say no, but he stopped himself. She was not a passenger. She was a soldier. She was trained in combat, And more than that, her mind could do things that no weapon on this ship could do. How asked? The pilots of those ships are all connected to a neural network. I can touch that network. I can feel what they are thinking. I can disrupt their communications. I can make them slow down. It will hurt you, said. He knew because she had explained to him how her telepathy worked. Using it that hard, that much, it would tear her mind apart. I do not care, Is said. I am finally doing something I choose to do. That matters more than the pain. She stood in the center of the command center and closed her eyes. Immediately, the screens showed the hunter ships swerving. Their formation broke apart. The communication system filled with noise and screaming. Is was trembling. Blood ran from her nose. More blood came from her ears. But the hunter ships were now firing on each other, confused by her mental assault. Hyperspace is ready, said. The ship jumped. The universe twisted, and then they were gone, far away from the Empire, alone in the emptiness of space. Is collapsed, caught her and carried her to the medical bay. Sophie rushed ahead and prepared a bed. When the medical scanner ran over Iz's body, it showed extensive damage to her neural pathways. She had burned out large sections of her mind to save them. She might wake up, the medical computer said, or she might not, or she might wake up and not be herself anymore. For 3 days Iz did not wake, sat beside her bed and held her hand. He told her about Earth. He told her about Emma. He told her about all the things they would do together if she woke up. Sophie sat with him sometimes. She had changed her mind about Iz slowly over the weeks. She had seen the princess try to become something new. She had seen belief in her transform her. And now she was angry that the High Lord was trying to take that away. She is going to be okay, Sophie said, though she did not believe it. She was just trying to give hope. On the 4th day, Iz opened her eyes. For a moment thought she did not recognize him. Then she squeezed his hand. We are free, she said. Her voice was weak and broken, but it was hers. We are free, said. That night, news came through the communication system. The High Lord had declared Iz a traitor to the Empire. He had blamed humanity for corrupting her and stealing her away. He was using her defection as justification for a full military attack on the human colonies and territory. The war that everyone had feared was now beginning. The betrothal was supposed to prevent bloodshed. Instead, it had started it. Felt something break inside him when he learned this. He had tried to do the right thing. He had tried to show that compassion and understanding could bridge the divide between species, and it had failed. People were going to die because of his choice. He found Iz standing by the observation window, looking out at the stars. She had recovered enough to walk, though she was still weak. This is my fault, she said. My father used my defection as an excuse to launch the war he always wanted. I gave him the justification he needed. No, said, this is not your fault. This is what he was always going to do. He was always going to go to war. He just needed an excuse. And I gave it to him. Took her shoulders and turned her to face him. You made a choice, he said. You chose yourself instead of the weapon he made you to be. That was not wrong. That was not a failure. That was the bravest thing I have ever seen. Iz looked at him, and for the first time something other than emptiness and pain showed in those black eyes. There was confusion. There was fear. But there was also something else. There was the beginning of something like hope. I almost died getting us away, she said. I know. I could have just done what he asked. I could have killed you. I could have gone back to being what he made me. I would not have had to suffer. But you did not, said. You chose the harder path. You chose to become something new, and that choice is making the difference. Trust me. Just trust me that this matters. Iz reached up and touched his face with her hand. It was the first time she had ever chosen to touch someone gently, without fear or anger or the urge to hurt. What happens to us now? She asked. I do not know, said, but we will figure it out together. That is what we do now. We figure things out together." In the days that followed, news came that reformed officers had risen up against the High Lord. They had been inspired by the princess's choice. They had been inspired by the human who had seen past the monster to the person inside. They were not strong enough to stop the war, but they were strong enough to fracture the empire from within. The galaxy was changing, and it had started with one human captain who believed that even the most damaged person deserved a chance to become something new. They offered the alien princess everyone feared. The human accepted instantly. Part 5: A New Beginning. 3 months had passed since the escape. The war between the Empire and the human coalition forces had ended, not because one side defeated the other, but because the Empire had collapsed from within. The High Lord had been removed from power. A new government was forming, one that was younger and more open to the idea of peace. Princess Is stood on the observation deck of the new joint human research vessel. It was called the Hope, and it was designed to do what the princess and the human captain had proven was possible: bring different species together to learn from each other instead of fight each other. She had recovered from the injuries she sustained during the escape. The medical technology on the ship was advanced enough to repair most of the damage she had done to her mind. But there were scars now, places in her consciousness that would never fully heal. She had learned to live with them, just as had learned to live with the loss of his daughter. Her life was completely different now. She was no longer a princess in the traditional sense. The new government did not use that title anymore. Instead, she was a representative, someone chosen by her people to sit on the Council of Reform. She worked every day to change the laws that had made her possible, to make sure that no other child would ever be created as a weapon. But that work was not all she did. Is had discovered that she loved learning. She spent hours studying human history and philosophy. She read poetry and music and art. She listened to the rain recording that had given her, not because she was sad, but because beauty made her feel alive in a way that nothing else could. And she helped other people like herself. The Empire had created others, other telepaths and weapons and tools. When Is learned about them, she made it her mission to find them. She brought them to the Hope. She helped them understand that they were more than what they had been made to be. She helped them learn to feel and to think and to want things for themselves. Was teaching now. He had turned down offers of higher rank and more authority. Instead, he worked with the next generation of diplomats and leaders, trying to teach them what he had learned. He believed that most conflicts came from fear and lack of understanding. He believed that if people took time to really listen to each other, to see the person underneath the uniform or the reputation, then the galaxy could be different. One of his students was a young warrior named that had been one of the first to reject the marriage arrangement because they feared Is so much, but had watched what happened, had seen and the princess change the course of history simply by refusing to see each other as monsters, now wanted to learn how to do the same thing with other species. Sophie had become the captain of the Hope. She had been skeptical of from the beginning, but she had come to understand why he had taken that risk. She ran the ship with compassion and intelligence, always trying to remember that every being on board had their own struggles and their own story. The day that changed everything came when received a message from Earth. It was from the Emma Foundation for Understanding, a charity created in his daughter's name. The foundation worked with refugee children from all the wars that had torn apart the galaxy, and now they had an opportunity to bring a young reformist to Earth. This young person would be one of the first exchange students, the first to live on the human. When read the message, he cried. Sophie found him in his quarters and held him while he shook with emotions that he had been holding back for years. "Emma would be so proud of you," Sophie said. "I hope so," said. "I finally understand what she was trying to tell me. I finally understand that changing the world does not happen through force or through fighting. It happens when one person decides to see another person as worthy of compassion, and then another person does the same thing, and then another. And slowly, the entire galaxy starts to change. That night found is on the observation deck. This had become their custom. When they both had much on their minds, they would stand and watch the stars together. She was reading a human poem on her. It was about loss and healing, and the strange way that broken things sometimes become more beautiful because of how they have been broken. "I want to visit she said without looking up. "I want to understand where you come from. I want to meet the people who created someone like you." Smiled, "I would like that very much." He extended his hand. Is looked at it for a moment, then she reached out and took it. Her hand was small and delicate, but he could feel the strength underneath. She was not the weapon her father had created anymore. She was not the empty, broken thing that everyone had feared. She was a person who was learning to love and to hope and to believe that the future could be different from the past. Together, they stood and watched the universe turn below them. Behind them, the hope sailed on through the darkness, carrying the first seeds of a new way of thinking about peace and understanding. Months later, when the young exchange student arrived on Earth, took her to visit Emma's memorial. It was a small garden where a fountain ran with clean water, and trees grew in patterns that spelled out her name. The exchange student was young and nervous and afraid. She had been made into a weapon, just like his had been. She carried scars from her creation that she would bear her entire life. But told her what he had learned. He told her that her life mattered. He told her that she had value beyond what she could do or what she could destroy. He told her that humans had learned long ago that the greatest strength was not the ability to hurt others, but the ability to see past fear and extend a hand in friendship. The young cried as she touched the memorial to Emma, and knew that the cycle was continuing. The seed that he and Iz had planted was growing. It was spreading across the galaxy, changing how beings from different species saw each other. Back on the Hope, Iz sensed the moment when the young finally accepted that she could be more than what she was made to be. She smiled, something that 5 years ago she would not have known how to do. The future was uncertain. There would be setbacks and failures. There would be people who refused to change, who clung to fear and hatred. But there would also be more like Iz, more like the young learning that it was possible to be something new. The story of how a human captain accepted a marriage proposal to a feared alien princess had become a legend across the galaxy. But the real story was simpler and more profound. It was the story of one person choosing to see another person as worthy of compassion. It was the story of how that simple choice could change everything. It was the story of how understanding and empathy could bridge any divide, no matter how impossible it seemed. And it had started with a man who remembered what his daughter had said about fear, and who had the courage to act on that belief when everyone else said he was crazy. That was the real power. That was what would reshape the galaxy, not weapons or wars or empires, but the simple decision to see each other as people instead of monsters. And that was something that would never change.